And just like that, it's over. A life taken by another for the sake of illustrating the importance of human morality. Logic so flawed that it ends lives when it's supposed to be saving them. Today, I will go over the moral concepts and the legality issues regarding capital punishment. Today, I will review those affected by capital punishment, how it's implemented, and the moral injustices resulting in federal illegality. A painkiller, a paralytic, and potassium chloride are administered in the main execution style, which is lethal injection. The paralytic is highly controversial because it's not necessary in killing the criminal, and it disallows them from crying or expressing pain while injected with the potassium chloride. Paralytic drugs are banned for animal use because of the cruel and unjust treatment of animals in lab tests. So why should we subject humans to the same cruel and unusual treatment? Lethal injection has the potential of being humane if the paralytic drug in the lethal concoction is removed and if potassium chloride is substituted with another drug with a lethal dose. Jessica Pierce in 2011 from Psychology Today says if the first drug with the anesthetic failed, an inmate with the second drug would be rendered unable to cry out or even blink an eyelid to let anyone know that he was fully aware and awake while the potassium chloride was being shot into his veins. The fact that potassium chloride is still in practice with the knowledge that it feels like fire in your veins, it's disrespectful to human life. No human, regardless of the heinous crimes they've committed in their lifetime, should be subject to this cruel possibility of enduring this excruciating pain while being completely incapacitated. Not only are the drugs utilized in lethal injection inhumane and cruel, but capital punishment is actually not an effective way to stop crime. Matthew Hine in 2018 from Knoxville News Centennial says, in addition, no good evidence the death penalty reduces murder rates or acts as a deterrent for crime in general. In April 2012, the National Research Council concluded that studies claiming the death penalty affects murder rates are fundamentally flawed because they did not consider the effects of non-capital punishment and used incomplete or implausible models. The kicker is that capital punishment is not an effective way to deter crime. Lifetime with no parole in jail is a better deterrent than a swift end by needle, even with the possible malfunction of the potassium chloride. Without absolute proof that it deters crime, why do we support it ending a human life? As we've seen, capital punishment is inhumane and ineffective. Since we've reviewed the problems, let's look at why it's legal and the logic supporting it and how it's flawed. In 2014, in April, Sarah Williams says, 1 in 25 criminal defendants handed the death sentence in the U.S. have likely been erroneously convicted. That number, 4.1 to be exact, comes from more than 3 decades of death sentences and death row exonerations across the U.S. Capital punishment presents the opportunity to kill innocent people. The laws regarding it are flawed and promote murder. That statistic is too high. It's disgusting and appalling how Americans are allowing the law to kill that many innocent people. We cannot permit the justice system to cause inhumane and unjust deaths. The law is meant to support justice and equality, but the legal appeals take so long in the court system that it inevitably leads to the death of an inmate. Joseph Margiles from the Columbia Human Rights Law Review in 2021 says at least when it comes to the death penalty, lower courts seem especially unwilling to follow Supreme Court doctrine that would save a person from execution. The result is a system that routinely kills people even when they are right. State courts currently are the ones who regulate and create the standards for who gets capital punishment. Because of this and the lengthy time it takes to appeal to the Supreme Court, an innocent is injected. Appeals have made it and have been granted in time for certain inmates, but if that time was allotted to all, that 4% of innocent deaths would be exonerated. Capital punishment is unjust and promotes murder. From Britannica, the encyclopedia, a historical and reliable source, says by legitimizing the very behavior the law seeks to repress, by killing, capital punishment is counterproductive in its message that it conveys. Abolitionists claim that it violates condemned persons' right to life and is fundamentally inhumane and degrading. If a child hits another, the punishment is spanking, then that child is going to assume that the next time it sees a child hitting another, it's going to inflict the same punishment on them. That same irony is the fundamental basis for capital punishment. Since we have reviewed the problems with capital punishment and how they occur, let's discuss my solution. I have but one solution to capital punishment, lethal injection, and all issues previously covered. Federalize it and illegalize it. Miriam Morchetti from Subscript Law in 2019 says general powers of crime and punishment are traditionally state powers. Because police powers are traditionally local or state controlled, most often the death penalty is imposed by a state government. Death penalty on a federal level relates to the injustice specifically against the U.S. federal government. Usually the crimes inflicted with the punishment of capital punishment are high seas punishment, or any crime on the high seas, espionage, treason, and crimes of the like. However, the only state level conviction of capital punishment is murder. Since most of the crimes are federal, I will use the 14th Amendment to support the notion to federalize capital punishment. Also from Subscript Law, a quote from the 14th Amendment in 2019, the 14th Amendment includes the right to procedural due process. This ensures the fairness in process by which someone's life, liberty, or property may be taken away. Life may only be taken by the federal government and may only be taken on issues regarding self-defense or immediate urgency. Court-ordered death of an inmate and the premeditated murder of them should not be permitted. For these reasons, and all but that murder is the only non-federally regulated issue, the death penalty should be a federal regulation. And even if capital punishment becomes a federal issue, it should be illegal based on the human duty to preserve life. Marculula Center for Applied Ethics by Claire Andres in 2015 says, but the case for assisted suicide is also powerful because it speaks to the fundamental reverence for human life and the risk of hurling down a slippery slope towards a diminished respect for human life. And although assisted suicide is not the same as capital punishment, it relates on the ground for the sanctity of human life, regardless of criminal history, status, or their current citizenship. A life should be valued above all else, and it's better for an inmate to remain in prison for their whole life with no parole than to have their life ended with no possible future. Human life should be valued and preserved above all else. The solution to the death penalty and lives lost is to federalize and criminalize the issue. 4% of inmates in 30 years were wrongfully accused and died. This is our chance to have justice for them. We have discussed problems regarding the death penalty, causes, and the solutions to preserve human life. Everyone deserves a right to life, even if they have taken one. It should not be the government's role to decide who lives and who dies. I will stand firm in my belief that the capital punishment is inhumane, cruel, and unjust treatment of humans. Impartiality is not the ground for murdering innocent inmates on death row. You too should believe in the sanctity of human life and urge others to abolish capital punishment.